If you recall, part of what we did yesterday was a lot of digging in to how people were doing their sales and observing from a third-party perspective. Can you better see some of the things that you maybe unconsciously were doing that were hurting your sales or preventing further connection or the ongoing relationship? Can you see the things that you were obviously doing quite right? So know that and keep doing it because that's going really, really well. Did you guys see a lot of that yesterday? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so what we're gonna do, a little bit of a different take on it, is instead of just sitting back and third-party viewing something in terms of a sales session, we had Michael bravely step up, and you did a shoot when you came to Seattle, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so came to Seattle, did a photo shoot, sat down with a client here in our creativeLIVE studio, filmed a sales session, and then you took the next step and did additional homework and gave me notes on, hey, here are the things that I would love for you to look at and tell me how I did. Here's what I think maybe might have happened, looking back on it, but I'm not sure. Can we get some clarity, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think this is gonna be very helpful because it's not just me dropping in and saying, dude, at that point, what were you thinking? It's you saying, I was unsure here. What could I have done differently, or how did this maybe come across? So we're gonna jump through and spend a few minutes, probably a good 10, 15 minutes, hopefully getting even more information out that will help everybody at home in your sales sessions. Things that you can see that are really good and things that might be tripping you up. So we start out, we sit down together.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you
It's good to see you
doing?
again.
Turn up a little
Good to
bit.
see you too.
Have any trouble getting here or anything?
No, I took 99, so I followed my husband's advice for once.
Awesome.
And first off, you were clearly being filmed for the purposes of this class, so it was, that beginning is always a little bit like, oh, hi, we're on a camera. All right, you get over it pretty quickly, but yeah, but just to give you some good allowance this first minute or so. So it's just kind of starting conversation, how you doing, how'd you get here? Okay, so now we're going in, and you say this is kind of what to expect from the process.
I just want your honest feedback.
All right.
All right.
Is it possible to turn it up just a little bit for me? Okay, here we go.
As we go through, if you have any questions or you have any comments about it, please feel free to just let me know. Okay, and don't worry about hurting my feelings. I just want your honest feedback.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so don't worry about hurting my feelings. I want your honest feedback.
Yeah, I think that's, I'm already setting myself up for protecting myself from
Yes.
I have to say, like, reviewing this was way more beneficial than I ever thought, so I want to do this more than once. So if you guys ever get a chance, I highly recommend it, because as I was taking my notes, yes, I saw what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong, but the big deal is, like, you can see the gap between where you're disconnecting with your client, you know, and that's kind of huge. So
Yeah.
well, not kind of, it is huge. So
It's technically, the term is ginormous.
yeah, ginormous. There you go.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, obviously, part of it too is there's been so much stuffed into your head over the last couple days that the clarity you would have had is even sharper. Like you're like, before Saturday at 2 p.m., I would have never dreamed of that. Yeah, so like, but what you did there, and I think you recognize, is you set yourself up and gave her the expectation that these may not be very good. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. Just tell me if that's what you think. When clearly that's not how we want to start.
No, never, no.
Yeah. All right, so we move in, and you start out.
Okay, so this is number one. And this is when we were sitting at the, remember when we were at the park, we were sitting inside of that statue?
Yeah.
Do you remember this? This is that part where you guys are inside of that cradle.
Cute.
So what do you think of?
So you start out.
What do you think of it?
What do you think?
Buy it?
Which is natural. Do you want to buy it? Do you want it? What size? That's natural and normal because you're getting started. You put it up there. It wasn't up for long. You talked a little bit about it, and then we rushed to fill the silence. Right. Okay.
I love the expression on my son's face. You captured him perfectly. Mm-hmm. And my husband, he looks goofy, but like the way he is. I mean, it's perfect. His body language I'm not sure it's my favorite, but I love the expressions you captured on him and even me. I think I look pretty good.
You look great.
Yeah. Naomi, it's not my favorite picture of her just because she smiles a lot, but she's, you know, a baby, so it's hard, but
Right.
it's a beautiful picture. I'm really happy with it.
Good. So would you say?
I like it.
You like
I
it?
like it.
Okay. So I'm just gonna mark these as we kind of move forward.
Okay, so have you given her the you're telling her now that you're going to mark them as you go forward?
Yeah, earlier in the video, we kind of skipped ahead of it. I went over the love, like, kind of forget about
Perfection.
everything, so.
Okay. And kudos to our client for stepping up and having the photo shoot, right? Yes?
Absolutely. Her family was awesome. Hi, guys. What's going on?
So you initially, we kind of go through the first one. She gives you she's great that she steps up and says this, and this in terms of the feedback. You mark it and you continue. Now, you get into here kind of a situation that you don't exactly know what you should say or do about, right? We're going to come up on when she comments on how she looks.
I actually like this one.
Did you Photoshop my face?
Good.
Because I look thinner than I do in real life.
I retouch all of my images.
Is that really me?
And of course it's really you. You look fantastic. I always feel
Okay, so that's interesting. This comes up sometimes. People will ask us, especially if you're photographing. I tend to photograph a lot of photographers and just do, so people will say specifically these questions. I've gotten that before. But in general, sometimes people will say, did you do something to that? Right? Have you guys gotten that? And then your response was, I think, right spot on. I retouched all my photos. Like, you know, if she said to you specifically, did you Photoshop my face?
Which she actually does ask.
Right,
yeah.
but I'm saying, but if she looked right at you and waited for your response and what was her stuff, that's a different situation. But in general, you gave an honest answer. You gave some feedback. In this case, you said you didn't actually do anything in the way of.
No, there was nothing in regards to special effects. It's just purely
Right.
color correction. That's it.
Yeah, and often what our clients don't know is that we have a lot of practice on great posing and great lighting. It will look like we Photoshopped them,
Absolutely.
but it's not. That's where we're actually bringing the skill. And I say that. I say, actually, you know, I do make a point of retouching all my photos and I finish them for you, and that's part of your service. In addition, I have spent a lot of time learning how to pose you really well and how to light you really well to your best advantage. And that's a lot of what you're seeing here today. And that's great to communicate that. That's a big plus of why they're using you as an established practice professional versus going out and getting snapshots that they're going to pay 99 cents for. You know, that there's a huge difference there that has very little to do with Photoshop and has to do with technical expertise.
Yes, it does.
All right, so then we've got that, and then we're gonna move forward here a little bit. I thought this was interesting. We get to a point where we have some objection.
What concerns is it that you have?
I don't want him to look like he's bald.
You don't-
He's still got hair.
Okay, so why don't we do this? If we can't get it to a point to where his hair doesn't look natural, one of the other products that I offer is called Standouts. And what
Okay.
they are is kind of foam matted foam core boards that are displayed with the entire image. Oops, sorry about that. That display the entire image, and it's wrapped around a foam core board, and it's basically on standout, so it's not on a frame. It's not inside of a frame. It's not a standard paper print.
Okay.
But it elongates the photograph from the wall. So I'm not certain if you're familiar with the product or not, but if I had my samples with me, I would show them to you.
Is it as nice as the canvas, in your opinion?
I think that they're both fantastic pieces. I own both, and I use both in my studio. They're perfect for different situations. Canvas, it gives kind of a textile feel, and they're very elegant. But I don't necessarily have a preference one over the other. I just think that they fit different situations.
Right.
So, and in situations like this, where you're worried about a crop, you like the image as it is.
Right.
You can put the image flush without sacrifice. You can still get a nice large print without having to worry about
Good. So basically her objection was she was concerned that if she got a canvas, it would wrap and it would take away aesthetically from part of the image that she wanted to keep in. And you offered a solution that would resolve that and still give her the feeling of a piece of work, artwork, as a standout. And you were at a disadvantage that you didn't have your products to show. It obviously, if you were in your studio, you would have shown them. Great. That's exactly what you do next. You get up and say, look, look. Or if you're at someone's home, that's the big upside of having samples with you. If you're doing something remotely via Skype and stuff, you can show things with a third dimensional view, kind of a standout look, which is very helpful to be able to say that's what it looks like from the front, and that's what it looks like hanging on a wall, et cetera. So I thought that was a really good response. Clearly, I think that what would be really helpful in this situation is to, it's not a script, but get familiar and comfortable with that kind of response so that you can deliver it in a very natural, flowing way. Because otherwise you get a little tripped up, and sometimes when you're trying to think of the words and the description and the this and that, they can get a little lost in the tripping.
Right.
And they're not into the language of what you're expressing. They're not seeing it and they're not feeling it.
My only question was, we began immediately talking about, prints. She asked, and she initiates that. So,
Yeah.
I piggybacking off of yesterday, the beginning of the process, we want to make sure that the client remains in an emotional state. And my fear is, we go from, oh, I love the image to I want to get it. And we begin talking about, buying and purchasing and prints.
Right.
But at what point is that okay, to actually go over? Do you want to just say, that's great, but we can absolutely talk about that, but let's do that later on? Or do you address the question immediately like I did?
The former, which is to say, a wonderful question. Let me make a note right here. I know exactly what we're going to talk about. We're not going to lose this. Let's keep moving along, and then I'll know exactly what to come back to. Because that way you let her know that you heard her, that that's not going to get lost, it was expressed, and you're going to act on it. But if you keep kind of moving along, similar to when I talked about managing distractions in our work-life balance course, managing distractions and staying productive, one of the best things you can do is keep a point sheet. Just simply write down what's coming up so it's not lost, so you can revisit it. You add a little extra detail once to make sure part of the image isn't cropped out, so that when you go back to it at the right time, energetically, it's a lot more effective and it doesn't kill the flow. All right, let's see, we're on to, I'm gonna come up here. Okay, so at this point, we get into, you start out saying, don't worry, you won't hurt my feelings, etc. We're moving through.
Pointing out this way.
Yeah.
So I somewhat would like to see him with his hand down, but I'm not totally certain, but it's kind of neat. It gives a little bit of character.
Yeah, I like it. The only thing I don't like about it is that I actually like his hand up there. It's his facial expression with his eyes. They're Caleb's.
Caleb's?
My son. That's not the way he normally. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a halfway expression on him. But I love that my daughter's looking. I love that we're looking. I love my husband with his grin like that.
Okay.
But it's one that I definitely would, if we were to purchase the prints or album, it would be in there for sure.
Okay, so it's a like.
A like.
Okay, it's a like.
Okay, so in that instance specifically, she's saying, I like everything about it except for this one expression.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And that's not abnormal at all. When when I wrote Envisioning Family, my beginning part was like, this is really, really, really hard to get everybody together, looking good, looking one way. I mean, you can get 99% of your shot and then an expression changes fleetingly and suddenly it's not the perfect picture, That's totally okay. But in that case, that's part of why, again, you don't want to show multiple images endlessly that are just slightly varied in terms of expression and this and that. But if you have a few of a family, I would definitely always suggest taking a few family photographs, not just one. You have the option to do things in Photoshop later or offer a head swap for a fee or something like that. And you have to gauge that on your client. Some clients might feel like, well, that's not natural and organic and I don't like that. Others might be like, swap that head. Amen. Bring it in. And then you save the sale, you save the shot, you still did the work. It's just a matter of basically compositing two images into one to make the image that she really wants to buy.
Okay.
Let's say, okay, so moving into this, then we get to the point where we talk about extracting expression.
Smiling. I'd say like.
Okay, like on this. Yeah, it's, extracting expressions from kids is so difficult, especially
you did such a good job.
The younger, well, thank you very much. You guys are great too. The younger and younger they are, the harder it is. But that one,
Okay, so, so extracting expressions from kids, the younger they are, the harder it is. That's true sometimes, yes. And
yeah, either way, it's my job.
It's your job.
To get the image. One of the other pieces that I kind of took away from this is, now I'm not a family photographer. I'm very used to interacting with adults and directing and saying, okay, I need you to do this, pose back here. Children are, kudos to all of you, okay?
It's a whole different
It is
beast.
a completely
Yes,
different monster.
Absolutely.
It's very rewarding work, but it's really hard. So I think I went from, like, I knew the previous image, I kept hearing her say expression, expression, expression. And I know that as an artist that's really, everything.
Right.
But, I wanted to point out, okay, the next image is like, this one's great, forget
Yeah,
about the last one. So,
yeah. So you thought the next one was great.
yeah, I did, yes.
So why didn't you lead with the great one and phase out the one you didn't like?
That's an excellent question. I probably should have.
Yeah, because in that vein specifically, if you lead with your best work, that is your job as the editor. You lead with your best work. You leave out anything that you feel like you have to make an excuse for. The only reason I would submit additional images that I didn't love is if I felt they complemented something else and I could sell them as a joint, this would be great in an album, this section together. Okay. This would be a great secondary or third family image to pull from if everything is fantastic except for that one expression. Those are good reasons, safe, secure reasons to have additional ones. But just in general, if you've got one that you don't really like and one that you love, you make the choice and put forward the one you love, and don't have to waste your time making excuses.
Okay.
There's no reason to. You've nailed the shot. You got the good shot. All right, so a little note on clarity here.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
So, well, I'm sorry. I want to make sure perfectly sure. I want to be certain about what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
You're saying that if you have other images that you wanted to put together and recrop in a different way
You
that
could
aren't
crop
currently
them.
one by
Right.
one, we could do that. There shouldn't be a problem doing that.
Okay.
What did he do? He asked for clarification, you rephrased and confirmed a point.
And that was before, that was
I
on.
know. That's awesome. I love that. That's excellent. Because then what did she feel? She felt heard, understood, you're engaged. She's in this more, you're in this more. Right. If at any point you're not sure you completely get it, that's a wonderful practice to get into. All right, and then a couple more points before we head out of this. So this is on the other side of listening. We have a different example because that was a great listen.
Yeah, I love black and white.
I'm sorry. Was that a love or like?
It's a like, but it's a like a lot.
Okay, so that's not a big deal, but kind of letting her go forward because she's about to start saying about what she loves and what she's into and this and that. If you have that mental note, like, wait, what was that? Just hold it for a second, let her finish.
Okay.
That's a pretty easy note. Let's see, we have here, we have another option where we're trying to get everybody to look forward, like everybody in the shot.
For whatever reason. I think it was just partially because it was hot. Everybody was just.
Yeah, my husband's got that big shiny spot. If this was an image that we were to purchase, is that something that you could get rid of, that shiny spot?
Absolutely. Sure. So this little, you're talking about this little sun flare here, right?
Yeah,
this highlight
also
right here.
underneath his eye.
I could absolutely take that off for you.
Okay.
So if that turns this into an image that you want to turn to print, yeah, of course,
Okay.
absolutely, no problem.
Yeah, it's like a 4.
It's a 4.
In
Okay.
between a like and a
All
love.
right.
Yeah, so that was good. She asked you what you could do with it, and you told her. And then what I would even do right then if I felt that she was leaning, I know everybody kind of feels differently about this, but I have, if we are in the point where we're deciding what to do with them, we're after we've made the choices, and we're deciding what we do with them, I pop it open and I say, like for instance, boom, 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 do you see the difference? I notice my clients have a really strong reaction to, there's one thing for saying, yeah, I can fix it and change it, and in my head it looks really good now. Do you see that? No, they don't see that. So showing them, and the amount of times you do the before and after toggle, and you say, okay, that's what we started with. This is what you would have when I give it to you. It moves them from I think so to done.
Okay.
done, love it, don't change a thing, print. You know, that does happen because then you just gave them the chance to really see what you're talking about, not the vague theory of what you know you can do. Because most of the time it's in your head and it's not in theirs. All right, are there any other points you wanted to hit before we moved on from this section? I know that you said in general, from your perspective, from your notes, looking through this, you were surprised at how many times you pointed out your flaws.
Yes, without a doubt. One of the other big things that I see is the further and further we get away, the less and less I'm looking at her. And I really want to make sure that we're focusing on what we're doing and that I'm constantly reestablishing a connection with her. So I don't think I would ever want to sit like this ever again. So it automatically made me think about, all right, how not only do I want to do this, but like, how do I want to position the client? How do I want them to be able to be re-engaged, et cetera, et cetera? I was really disappointed that I kept looking away from her so much. I kept focusing on the computer rather than her.
Interesting, interesting. Well, that's a wonderful takeaway. How would you reposition yourselves in relation to each other going forward?
You kind of brought up a suggestion yesterday about it. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest
With
with
the
you.
wireless mouse?
Yeah, the wireless mouse was a good idea. I don't know if I would necessarily want to have chairs side by side. I kind of like the idea of, you know, maybe a diagonal view of a single point where we can constantly make contact. But what I do know is I never want to have any other object that I have to shift my attention away from or to other than her and the imagery.
Yeah, because from a nonverbal perspective, what you're picking up on very well is that your back is to what she's looking at. You're looking at a different screen and then you're kind of craning around, not dissimilar to me right now, to see what you're looking at. And then when you're in a position where you're comfortable, like I said, the way we have it positioned, we have the wireless mouse here, the computer's back there that I'm not looking at because we're just looking together at the screen. And so similar to like going to the movies with someone, even though you're having a separate experience in separate seats, you're together because you're sharing an experience. And you're both directing your energies in the same way. If you were at a movie theater and somebody was facing the back, it would have a very different kind of effect.